Welcome everyone to our third and final bonus in our program. This call is really special because we're going to be going step by step how to run effective meetings. My aim today is to give you some strategies that aren't common, that are maybe a little anti-intuitive, or as they say, counterintuitive, not anti-intuitive. And if you want the run-of-the-mill tips on how to run effective meetings, like agenda setting, the role of the chair, etc., you are very welcome to Google those. There's lots and lots of information you'll find about that. What we're going to go through today is a little bit different to what you normally might hear. So I'm hoping it's going to be of great value to you. If you haven't got your workbook open, the workbook I sent this morning, make sure you've got it open and ready to take some notes. Before we get into the content, again, for those who have completed their 7 accountabilities, drop me an email at angie@timeequalsmoney.net.au so I can get you your $100 for finishing the course. Well done to those crossing the finishing line this week. I congratulate you. Make sure you share your success on Facebook because it helps others to finish as well. Okay, for those of you not there yet, keep going. You might need to enroll in Accountability Coach to help you out. It's harder to get out of doing something if you've teamed up with somebody else. No one likes to be a piker, as we say in Australia. A piker is someone who backs out of things. And I know every week I go for a walk with one of my friends, and I hate being the one to say that I can't make it. So it makes sure that we've walked now since, oh my God, it must be 11, 15 years. Every Saturday we've walked together. So a long time. See how piking, having an accountability, somebody to keep you accountable, can stop you from backing out. All right. Stop you from procrastinating. So as soon as you're done, though, regardless of how long it takes you, make sure you let me know you're done and I'll get you that payment. I want you to finish. And I hope I've made that nice and clear by now. The point is, don't let it drag on forever. Not for me, for you, okay? All right. Oh, lastly, before we get into the content, all the accountability sessions have been booked up. I'll get you another set of dates in a week. Or if you want, when you are ready, drop me an email and I will find you a date, okay? I mean, that might be even the easiest way to go. If you prefer to, I will still send out the email with my availability though. Make sure you get in as quickly as you can. It's a first in, first served basis. Give me 2 dates indicating your first and second preference so I can be sure to try and accommodate you as best as I can. All right, let's get into today's content. As always, if you have a question, please type it in and I'll answer that question at the end. And if you're listening to this webinar after the event and have a question, it's never too late to ask that question, right? So send that to me via email. Ask for what you want so you get what you need. All right, so let's get into the subject of today. Imagine a surgeon saying that they love their job only if they didn't actually have to operate on anybody. Imagine a symphony conductor preparing for a performance and saying, you know, I love my job if it wasn't for all these concerts. Imagine a professional cricket player saying, oh, I love being a cricket player if I didn't have to play all these games. It's crazy, right? And this is exactly how business people sound when they complain about meetings. Because if you think about it, meetings are our version of the operating room and the playing field and the stage. If you lead or manage a company, then meetings are pretty much what you do. And even though we realize this on some level, we still wish they didn't happen as often. We complain about them. We try and avoid them. We wait for them to end. And because they are inevitable, we silently suffer through them, even when we're the ones facilitating that meeting. And it's ironic that an activity that is so critical, so central to running an organisation can be so painful and at times unproductive. The truth is, meetings are critical, and when done well, major decisions can be made and a significant amount of time can be saved outside of the meetings, and I'll explain more about that. A good meeting is dynamic, passionate, focused, gets focused engagement. It extracts the collective wisdom of the team. And the truth of the matter is that bad meetings almost always result in bad decisions or no decisions, which is the best way to ensure that your organisation stays mediocre. And as I mentioned, a lot of time is being wasted outside of meetings, discussing things that should have been taken up in the meeting. It is entirely possible to transform these events into something that people look forward to and that are maximised. But to do this, you may have to change the way you manage your meetings now. So what we're going to learn is what makes a great meeting. Pardon me, oh my God, that's bad. What makes a great meeting? The 4 kinds of meetings that we should have. What are they? Which ones do you currently use? I want you to ask that of yourself. How to use conflict and drama to ensure that your meetings are productive and exciting. And most people will try and shy away from that. Okay, so tell me. You can type in your answer. Let me just see. Yep, all right, great. What would you rather do? Would you rather go to a movie or a meeting of the same length of that movie? Type your answer in. Yes, just as I suspected. Most people would prefer to go to a movie. Oops, just a little bit more information. Let me just go. Most people would like to go to a movie. An average movie typically lasts about 1.5 to 2 hours. The average length of a meeting and a movie are both around the same time, give or take 20 minutes maybe, but most of us would rather go to a movie than attend a meeting. Movie meetings, however, are much more interesting than movies. Let me see if I can convince you as to why. Movies, you see, are passive. You can't interrupt, you can't give advice, you can't share your thoughts, no matter how much you're screaming at the person on the screen to not go through that door. Meetings are interactive. You know, you can role play, you can do different activities to get people actively involved. Movies have got nothing to do with our lives. There's nothing you need to do after a movie, and definitely nothing tangible changes. Meetings, however, I'm getting ahead of myself. Meetings, however, directly link to our immediate future. You can live without seeing a movie, and it's possible to move forward at times without meetings, but it makes it much easier and a much happier workplace when we actually have others involved. Shares the load, and as I said, it elicits ideas and considerations that you may not have actually considered on your own. So what do all great movies have in common? What makes us actually sit there and watch these things? They all have conflict and drama. And by conflict, I don't mean war or gore or anything like that. I mean an anxious situation that needs to be resolved. And even if it's the actor resolving something within its own head, there's still that conflict. Something's at stake. That's why there is conflict. You know, when there's conflict, if a meeting had something at stake or created conflict or a hook of some sort, then the group becomes more engaged and comes up with a solution to deal with that conflict. I mean, have you noticed how people band together when there is a problem? Conflict is a reason why people become engaged and stay to the end of the movie. Without it, we can tend to lose interest. You know, where's this all going? What's the point? Have you ever watched a movie like that, where you're thinking, all right, so is something going to actually happen? Without this conflict, we lose interest, and yet, you know, there's plenty of potential for drama. But with meetings, we tend to focus on getting to the end and getting out of the room, or avoiding or eliminating or minimizing any tension or conflict. So meetings lack drama and conflict because we're not comfortable with it. We try to actually squash it rather than encourage it, and there is a way of encouraging it safely. So my first recommendation for you is to increase the effectiveness of your meetings is you need to deliberately allow and encourage a bit of drama and a bit of conflict. And before we talk about how to do this, we first need to talk about when conflict should be created. Okay, so let me go back to movies. What is the most crucial part of a movie? Would anybody like to hazard a guess? Exactly. The first answer came through. The beginning. It's the beginning. The screenwriters and directors, you know, worked out long ago that a great introduction needs to hook the audience in to keep them in their seats, and that this needs to be done within the first 10 minutes. And this can be applied to meetings. A good hook keeps a group engaged and gets them involved in a meeting, and it needs to be within the first 10 minutes or less of that meeting. When you hook people in the beginning, they are more likely to stay in their seats and stay focused to the end. And you need to give your team a reason to care about coming and playing full tilt at that meeting. Your team needs to be jolted so that they understand and appreciate what's at stake. So some ways to actually get your team hooked in is maybe to talk about the dangers of making a bad decision, or highlighting a competitive threat, or appealing to a participant's commitment to the larger mission of the organisation and its impact on the clients and society at large. So, for example, one way to start your meeting could be, all right, we've got 30 minutes, team. Let's make them count. What are the top 3 priorities you'll be working on this week, and why is it important for the group to know? What challenges might you encounter that will prevent you from getting this done? This gives you a reason to listen, don't you agree? How is it going to impact on me, rather than tuning out while somebody goes on about what they've got on their plate? Here's another example of how to start a discussion. I'm sure you've all got other things you'd rather be doing right now, but let's keep a few things in mind while we're here. Firstly, our competitors are hoping we're going to mess up. Second, we're leaving money on the table, and they're hoping that we're over budget and under time, so that our projects take longer and we have to pay more for delays, and basically our clients don't come back to us. Every decision we make today has a huge impact on our skills and our reputation as a company. I honestly want to go to the meeting thoroughly prepared and aware of all that could go wrong. So let's get down to it. Let's do this right so that we're on the front foot the next time we meet with these clients. How does that sound? Consider the meetings you currently attend. Do they start with a great hook that reels you in and keeps you engaged? Or are you constantly looking for a reason to care amongst what's being said? Think about the meetings you lead. Could you kick them off differently? How do you even sound when you're leading these meetings? Do you sound interested or do you sound bored? Like, oh God, here we are, necessary evil, let's get it done. You know, another meeting. Before you kick off a meeting, be prepared. Spice up your agenda. What's the drama? Why should they have a reason? Give them a reason to care. What's at stake? Begin with a hook, and then once you've started with that hook, help the team mine for conflict. So, when an intelligent group of people come together to talk, disagreements are inevitable. Avoiding these conflicts make the meetings boring, makes it frustrating, also can be awkward when these sort of things are being ignored even though they've been raised. You know, the elephant's in the room, but it's basically people are trying to ignore that it's happening. Conflict needs to be mined. It needs to be encouraged and it needs to be appreciated. And when I say mind, do you know what I mean? What I mean by that? I mean, you need to look for it. You need to dig for it. You need to search for it and you need to extract it, get it out. People need to air their views, even if people start to dislike you if you're airing your view during the meeting. Now, the only thing worse than conflict is smothering it, because it stays buried, doesn't it? It's still there and it's festering and it's actually infecting the whole group to disengage. Mining for conflict means looking for times when people have differing opinions but aren't voicing them. If you're the leader of the meeting, you need to ask people to communicate their opinions. In other words, you need to mine for this buried conflict. And the reason is you need to get all the points of view aired so that you, as the leader, can make a well-considered decision before going forward. Because, you know, as an individual, you need to know that you're, and the people actually in the meeting, as an individual in that meeting, they need to know that their thoughts have been sufficiently considered. They've been aired, they've put it on the table, and now basically whatever will happen will happen. It's important because you need the team to go forward as a team, both feet in regardless of the decision. And this is impossible if they don't say what they're thinking. Right? If they're having these little gripes in the corridors but not actually saying it at the meeting. I used to work in a call centre. I was a manager in a call centre. And even though we had people, you know, signing their lives away to come and work with us and saying, oh, yes, I'll work from, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever time we opened, and I'll work till, I'll do a shift, a late shift, and, you know, finish at 6 p.m. Even though we had people fully aware of this, you know, commitment and signing and saying that they agree to this, whenever they were asked to do a shift that they didn't particularly want to be doing, like a late shift or an early shift, they would whinge. It was really annoying. But, you know, you could smother that, or you could actually say, okay, so I hear what you're saying. So how are we going to work around this? What are we going to do? You're going to move them on, don't you, when they actually are griping? But searching for getting that feedback is great. Having your team feel comfortable to give you that feedback is great. And doing something with it and being the leader and moving them on is your role. So as a leader in a meeting, this is something you need to focus on doing through the meeting. And it's how the meeting participants keep playing full on. However, I will add now, it's not required to have, you know, conflict in every meeting. It has its place, and I'll go into that a little bit more very soon. However, when the purpose of the meeting is to discuss, debate, and brainstorm, you need it. And you need to get everyone involved so that when whatever decision is made, you've got buy-in to the outcome. So having a few techniques to help you get back control of a meeting also helps. For example, when someone goes off track or they're taking a long time to get to a point, you need to have a few techniques to actually get them back on track. So here's one now. You can say to the person, you know, I hear you. So just say they're waffling on, waffling on, waffling on. What you can say is, so you think that having a coffee machine is a great idea. How can that help us achieve our objectives? So basically you're paraphrasing and you're moving them on. If it gets heated, something like, yep, I agree with you, I think you're right, diffuses the situation totally. If you don't agree, though, you could say something like, you know, I see exactly how you feel that way, and it is upsetting, or whatever emotion you want to use. The main point is to not leave them hanging, not leave them continue going, to actually take some control and acknowledge them. Meetings are, you know, good or bad, really based on the meeting's leader, the chair, on their ability to actually lead that meeting. They have to be in control. Are they leading the meeting like a leader or someone who begrudges the role? So how do you help people mine for conflict safely and manage the different personalities in a meeting? How you do this actually builds trust in you as a leader and your ability to assess and treat people fairly. So getting people engaged in conflict when they're not accustomed to it can be a challenge. And there's one simple technique that makes it easier, and it's called real-time. Sorry about that. I was just making sure I was recording just then. Oh my God, am I not recording after all this? Real-time permission. So there will be in a moment in your meeting when a team member takes the first risk to engage another person in an active debate. And no matter how much we prepare them for this, it's going to feel uncomfortable. But when this happens, as a leader, you can minimize that discomfort and maximize the likelihood of the conflict, that the conflict will continue by interrupting the participants and reminding them that what they're doing is good. So, for example, you could say something like, oh, you know, Angie, this is great. This is exactly what I was talking about. It's our job to question each other if we think we can make the outcome better. So please go ahead. You know, as simple as it seems, it's effective. It's exceptionally effective. Exceptionally effective. Let me repeat that. What happens when comments like these are made is that people who are taking the risk let go of that personal tension that they may be feeling. It allows them to retain their individual passion around the issue and continue to advocate their positions without being distracted or discouraged by their fears of personal rejection or repercussion. Because a lot of people are scared that if they say something, they're going to upset someone, they're going to ruin a relationship with someone, or they're going to pay for it later, basically. So here are some ground rules for mining conflict that you want to keep in mind or share with your team for when you're doing these type of meetings. Okay. The group has a passionate discussion until the leader decides that all the issues have been aired and opinions have been shared. So basically you're the leader, you're the boss of the organisation or the manager of that team. You're going to be, your job is to make sure the opinions have been aired, you know, not for the sake of putting everybody's 2 cents worth, that, you know, what has to be said has been said, and it's time now to move on. If no compelling decision has been agreed to by the group, then the manager makes the decision. That's the rules. Your role is to mine for conflict and to take the discussion home, you know, to drive it home. Call on people who are quiet. People who are devil's advocate, call on them. People who always take an alternative view to the opinion that's aired. I mean, this is for sure going to get you in some conflict. Don't start a meeting with the intention of achieving consensus. Realise that this might not be possible, and consensus is rarely ever possible, in fact. It could be that you just haven't got all the issues out. The agreement is that once a decision is made, everybody supports it regardless of their first position, which is why you want people to get everything off their chest and not hold back. Okay? There may be some confusion. There may be some awkwardness and discomfort. It will pass as long as you reiterate that real-time permission. You basically commend them for doing what they're doing. It may feel uncomfortable for them to air their thoughts, but it is necessary. Remember, it's always reiterate, it's not about you, it's about the issue. Leaders need to push people to contribute. You need to hear from everyone. You need to stress to people, disregard the tone. It's not about the tone. Listen to what they're saying, okay? People have different comfort levels, and with conflict, maybe some people become quite defensive or sidestep the reaction, Listen to the message. It's good for the team and the company and the goal. And this is to you too. Disregard the tone. Listen to the message. Everyone is on the same side. They all want the best. They're there. They're getting an income. They want the business to be better for them. It's all about them, It's all about me. So if I contribute, I feel like I'm doing something that I'm being listened to. I feel like if you take on my idea, then this company's sort of mine too. It makes me more want to contribute. So give them a reason to. Mind for conflict. When team members mind for conflict, praise them for doing so that you relieve the tension. And continue to advocate their positions, okay, without being distracted or discouraged by their fears or personal rejection or repercussion. A great question to ask the team is, what is the real issue we're talking about here, and how does it affect us? Getting to the real issue of a problem usually takes the greatest amount of time. Okay, so far we've said we need to start with a hook. We need to be prepared for that meeting and prepare the group for the discussion or for contributing full on for that meeting. And we need to, if it's the right type of meeting, we need to mind for conflict. That's what we've said so far. Okay. The next thing we're going to talk about is one of the reasons why a lot of meetings are ineffective is because the actual meeting, it's not clear on the context or the purpose of that meeting. Okay, so let me explain what I mean by this and why you might actually need more meetings. Right? You probably think I'm a madwoman saying that. But I want you to consider programs that you watch on the TV. Headlines. How often do you watch them? You watch them daily. And how long does it take you to watch them? It takes about 5 minutes. It doesn't take long, as you can read the headlines all the time almost on the TV. Think about sitcoms. These usually are run weekly. They're around 60 minutes. So you sit down to watch a sitcom, it's going to take about 60 minutes. Movies. How often do you watch a movie? Maybe once a month, maybe twice a month, maybe once a week. And you know that when you're going to watch a movie, it's going to be around an hour and a half to 2 hours. And then there's the odd ones that are a bit less than that or a bit more than that. Think about a mini-series. How often might you watch one of these? One every 6 months, one every quarter? Because with a mini-series that is probably going to be about 6 hours, over 3 weeks or 2 weeks, etc. What if you tried to combine all of these types of programs into one 2-hour show? So the 2-hour show would be part news, part sitcom, part movie, part miniseries. Would you watch it? Of course not, because you wouldn't have a clue. It might not appeal to what you want right that minute. Maybe you only want a quick update. Maybe you want to get engrossed and it needs more time to evolve's not the right word, but basically it needs to be spread out over a few weeks so you get a really good understanding, have more time there. This is what's happening with most meetings, you see. They're a mismatch of all different types of meetings in the one, and we wonder why things don't get resolved, we don't have enough time to discuss things. We discuss things that are small to the same degree as we discuss things that are large, and usually we discuss the small things longer because they're at the top of the meeting agenda. We have different kinds of meetings for different purposes. And when we actually fix that, when we fix the context and the structure, our meetings become much more effective. So let's have a look at the 4 types of meetings that there are. And because when you understand the types of meetings, what they're about, when you're clear on how you're supposed to participate in that meeting, the type of thinking you need to bring in, it makes the meetings much more effective. And the solution I'm suggesting is not to stop having meetings, but rather to make them better, because when you properly utilize meetings, they can actually save you time. Okay? Good meetings provide opportunities to improve execution by accelerating decision-making and eliminating the need to revisit issues over and over again. Good meetings reduce time lost to what's known as sneaker time. Sneaker time is a mix, where basically you go from one, let me say it again. Sneaker time is mixed in with everything else that you do, so that you can't easily see, it as a category on its own, because it's very sneaky, because it looks like it's considered as all the other work, you see. So sneaker time is like sending an email or answering emails or ad hoc meetings or roaming the halls to clarify issues that should have been cleared up in a meeting in the first place. But you see, no one accounts for this sneaker time when they add up time spent in meetings, because it's hidden. So our aim at every meeting should be for clarity, closure, and buy-in, so that we reduce emails and check-ins. So let's go through the 4 meetings, their purpose, their structure, and their challenges. I'm just going to check the time. So give me a second to do that. Okay, we have about 20 minutes left. Oh, wow. All right, we should get through this information. Okay, so the first daily check-in is the daily check-in. So, of course, this is done daily. The purpose of this daily check-in is to save emails, voicemails, drop-ins. It's a great way for the team to clarify their expectations of one another. The purpose of the daily check-in is to share what you've got on your plate that day, and to share the priorities, basically, what you're working on, so that others know what you've got going on. And they can help if possible, or contribute if possible, or leave you alone if that's the case. The rules for daily check-ins are that they need to happen every day at the same time. They need to start and end on time, and they need to be in the same place. Each person in the team gets up to 60 seconds to talk about the top 3 things they're doing for the day. And this allows enough time for a fairly detailed description and a follow-up question or 2. You'd be surprised. It needs to happen regardless of who's in the office on that day. Even, members can even dial in if they need to. Members need to stand so the meeting doesn't go over time, because it's 60 seconds per person. Keep a timer to ensure that it ends on time and that people stick to their 60 seconds. If things come up that need a longer meeting, you need to have a system in place to schedule a longer meeting, like an ad hoc meeting later on that day, for example. It needs to focus on actions being done by each team member for the day. The challenge with this type of meeting is that people go over time, especially in the beginning, until it becomes a routine. So you want to help them stick to time. And you want to keep the meeting as brief overall as possible. So you don't want to have 30 people at this meeting. You might do the meeting in your clusters instead of as a big, massive group, because you don't want to be there for 30 minutes listening to all this. You want to be there for 5 to 10 minutes max. But 60 seconds per person, and stick to it. Be ruthless. They don't get to the 60 seconds, cut them off. Or let them finish, but tell them they went over and to cut it down the next time. All right. The solutions for the challenges is to keep it consistent, the when and the where, and don't cancel if only a couple of people show up. Keep doing them. All right, the weekly tactical meeting is the next type of meeting we've got. So this is meeting number 2. The weekly tactical meeting happens weekly, obviously, and it focuses exclusively on tactical issues or what needs to be done by the team short term. The purpose of this meeting is to review weekly activities and metrics, resolve tactical obstacles and issues. So it's things like operations meetings. It's things like sales meetings. There's no agenda set before this meeting. The agenda is based on what people are working on and how the team is performing against this goal. It's not based on what people think it's important to discuss at the time. This is about clearing potential problems and solving problems. That's the sole purpose of this meeting. So here are some rules. It needs to happen at the same time, at the same place every week. It needs to start and end on time, and it should run for about 60 minutes. There's no agenda. There's a structure, but there's no agenda, right? The structure is as follows. Firstly, there's lightning round. Each team member talks about the top 3 things on their plate for the coming week, and this should take about 60 seconds per person, including 1 to 2 follow-up questions. And you can make a note of any issues that need further discussing. And you might want to use a timer at the beginning to make sure you stick to the 60-second rule. Then scoreboard review, around 5 minutes. So each member talks, so review the goals and the objectives of the business. And yes, that's right. And note the current status of each major goal. So this means that if a team's working towards 3 major goals this quarter, like rebranding, increasing sales revenue, and reducing advertising costs, the team does a quick check to see where they currently stand with regards to these objectives. Then it's the tactical agenda items. And this goes for about 30 minutes. So discuss potential tactical issues that need to be covered, assign an order of what to discuss first, and basically just dive in. This agenda takes shape as a result of the lightning round and the scoreboard review. In the lightning round, the group may find themselves wanting to know more or talk about a team member's project for the week. This then can be part of the agenda items for the meeting. When doing the scoreboard review, the team may find they're off track when it comes to a major goal and may wish to discuss ways to get back on track. Again, this becomes part of the agenda for this particular meeting as well. Once you've done the tactical agenda, then it's down to potential strategy topics. So as the meeting progresses, you need to note down topics that may need to be discussed later in a strategic meeting. You don't want to get into them at this meeting and resolve them here. That's not what this meeting's about. So you just want to park them and keep them for consideration when you're deciding what you're going to look at strategy meetings. One person in the meeting needs to record down the decisions and actions that were agreed on during the meeting, and the team leader should probably take a note of this as well. And then basically discuss what needs to be communicated to other people outside of that meeting as a result of this meeting. Agree on any timelines for the communication to happen. Boom, boom, that's it with this type of meeting. And in the workbook you've got, it's got a template to record the different components. So the lightning round, the scoreboard, the tactical agenda, potential strategies, etc. So it's in the back as one of the annexes. Before I move on, let's talk about the challenges. The challenge with this one is that there's a temptation to set the agenda ahead of time. You've got to sacrifice control and trust that the right agenda items will fall out of the lightning round and the metrics review. The other challenge is the team goes into too much detail during the lightning rounds, and others may lose interest and cloud what is actually important to discuss. Lastly, another challenge is the temptation to make the weekly tactical into a discussion about long-term strategic issues. How do you overcome these challenges? You remind people that to be open-minded about the discussion and trust that the most important real-time agenda items are going to fall out of the discussion. You hold team members to 60 seconds during the lightning round. This isn't really enough to cover the key activities and answer quick clarification questions. You hold discussion on strategic issues. There's not enough time here to discuss them properly. There needs to be time to brainstorm, analyze, and prepare. So, leave strategic items for another time. When issues are raised, it's really critical to table them for the monthly strategic or the quarterly reviews so they're not forgotten. Okay? All right, the next type of meeting is the monthly strategic meeting. So the purpose of this monthly strategic meeting is to discuss, analyse, brainstorm, and decide upon critical issues affecting long-term success. This is where we discuss, discussions involving analytical skills and experience and intuition all come into play to solve the bigger ticket items at these strategic meetings. This is where brainstorming and creative activities should be integrated so that magic actually has an opportunity to happen. The reason why we keep this separate from our weekly tactical is because at the weekly tactical there's just not enough time to get into those discussions. Plus, the weekly tactical takes a different sort of thinking. It's about solving problems. The monthly strategic is about brainstorming and being creative and getting ideas. So it's a different sort of purpose and thinking that you bring to those meetings. Okay, rules for the monthly strategic. Your aim is to only discuss one or two topics at those meetings so that you've got enough time to thrash them out. Agendas are critical for these meetings because you may need to do some research before then, and team members need to come prepared for them. The monthly strategic can last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, depending on the nature of the discussion and how spirited people get. It could even be 4 hours a month that you spend on these monthly strategic meetings. If something comes up during the week tactically that needs a strategic discussion, you could hold an ad hoc strategic, but this is separate from the monthly strategic. Okay, that one's to solve a quick, immediate problem. Big and hairy topics that come up at the weekly tactical meeting need to be discussed at the strategic meeting, not at the tactical. The key to the monthly strategic meeting is to get people hooked within the first couple of minutes of attending the meeting and to mine for conflict and then to drive things to conclusion. And that's what you do when you are the leader of that meeting. Needless to say, all team members should attend the meeting. and it should be scheduled in advance with the necessary information circulated prior to the event. And when I say all team members, it should be all relevant team members, and of course a decision maker. All right, the challenges are that you fail to schedule enough time for them, or that you put too many agendas on the item, you fail to prepare and research ahead of time, and you don't mind for conflict. These are the challenges with these type of meetings. How to overcome them: schedule 3 to 4 hours. Each issue needs to be given at least an hour and a half for discussion, and the agenda needs to be planned accordingly. Let team members know ahead of time what's going to be discussed, what they need to do to prepare for that meeting. And the leader needs to make it absolutely crystal clear that conflict is inevitable, acceptable, and is wanted. It's a good thing in this kind of meeting, and they need to mind for it and encourage it. The leader of the meeting in particular needs to lead and take control. Okay, the last type of meeting is the quarterly off-site review. And this is the same with the annual review. The quarterly off-site review has earned a reputation as a bit of a time waster because a lot of people feel or think that there's lasting benefits for this type of a meeting back at work. It can be viewed quite scornfully by the employees who are left behind, which is a shame, not only because of the time and money and the reputations being sacrificed, but because of the critical role that this type of meeting actually plays in the context of how it serves the organisation. This type of meeting is a chance to step away from daily, weekly and monthly day-to-day operations and take a look at things from the distance and build the unity of the core team or the management team or whichever team are actually going to that quality site review. This is where your team discusses strategy, competition, morale, employee morale, the dynamics of the team, the top performers, the bottom performers, the customer satisfaction, everything and anything that has a long-term impact to the success of the company. A good length of time for this type of meeting is about 2 days every quarter, and this is without any team building sort of activities. This is without any other non-critical activities for the business. For this kind of meeting, it's really useful to hire an outside facilitator, someone that understands the company and the culture of the company and who can help in an almost invisible way. And this leaves the leader free to dive into the review without staying on his toes as the facilitator. So the challenge for these type of meetings is there's a tendency to overburden and overstructure the meeting. Too much fooling around rather than actually business. Inviting outsiders to the meeting, that really is not what this meeting is about. Location, distractions, where you actually do the meeting can be quite a distraction. So how to overcome these type of challenges? Have enough time for discussion and idea generation. Don't have them at exotic locations. Don't include too many social activities. Have it maybe an hour away at a conference centre, just far enough away that people can't rush back to their desk and office, but not at too great a place that basically you spend most of your time socialising and being distracted by the activities. The only person that should be invited is a facilitator who's trusted by the team. So the third tip for running effective meetings is to set up the right type of meeting for what you're trying to achieve and to run it efficiently according to the rules I've just gone through. Run each meeting with purpose and urgency. Be the leader of that meeting if you're the chair of that meeting. Encourage contribution appropriate to the type of meeting it is. And keep people to time. Do something about it if they don't keep to time. I find it's always best to say what type of contribution you're after when you send out the invitation to the meeting. And you might also want to include any expectations you have around phones, attendance, etc. And restate that at the start of the meeting so people know how to play the game. If the meeting goes off track, bring it back on track. If you're encouraging conflict, let people feel safe to do that. Don't leave them hanging. Encourage them positively. Come prepared mentally to lead that meeting and ready to achieve its objective. Let go of what you were doing before. Go for a quick walk around the block. Eat light. Drink lots of water. Have your wits about you, basically. If you have any other questions that relate to today's topic, don't hesitate to email them to me. If you have any questions about any other topics that we've gone through, don't hesitate to post them on Facebook or to email them through to me. This brings us, people, to the end of our call. It brings us to the end of our program. My God, can you believe it? I can really actually say that's all, folks. But you know it's not that's all, of course. I'm always here to help. If you want to get in contact with me, you are welcome to. I've been doing lots and lots of one-to-one, not one-to-one, one-to-group coaching of late. If you would like me to hold you accountable, if you need a bit more hand-holding, doing it like this in a group is not enough for you. You want to get this nailed, you want to get it done, and you need some more help. I'll be sending out an email about that later this week. All the best to you, people. Stay in touch, and I'll be in touch myself. That's all, folks.